On the afternoon of August 10th, 1994, 20-year-old Erica Young was looking after her youngest brother and sister at their home in Biglerville, Pennsylvania, as she had many times before. Being the oldest one at home, she soon found herself trying to do the best she could during one of her family's darkest moments.
Okay, well, you guys stay close to the house, all right?
There's 8 kids in our family, and there's 5 girls. Luckily, it outweighs the boys, which are 3. It's not your average American family by any means, but we get along pretty well.
Erica was taking care of the youngest children, 7-year-old Danny and 5-year-old Sherry.
Sherry's a nice sister. I like that she plays with me.
Sherry saw Teddy, the dog, run across the road over into our neighbors.
No, Teddy!
She knew that Teddy wasn't supposed to be over there, and she went after him.
Maida Switek lived right across the road.
Teddy comes over quite frequently.
Hi, Sherry. You taking Teddy home?
Yep.
Occasionally, Sherry would come over for him. And usually I'd say, now look both ways before you cross the road. But for some reason or other, I just didn't say it that time.
I saw cars and told Sherry there's 2 cars coming. She thought I only said 1.
When we continue.
She went rigid and quit breathing. I had a horror that she was going to die in my arms. I saw Sherry probably about 50 feet from where the car was.
Sherry? Sherry?
She was just laying there staring straight up and gurgling, and I knew that she was choking on blood.
Sherry, look at me.
I just wanted to hold that little life and just keep it as long as possible. I was afraid to move her because I wasn't sure if her neck or anything was broken, but she went rigid and quit breathing. I had a horror that she was going to die in my arms.
Sherry? Sherry?
I eased my hand behind her neck and just turned her head just a little and cleared her mouth out so she could breathe.
Come on, keep breathing. Keep breathing, Sherry.
She started crying, and I was just like, oh, thank heavens you're breathing. Just stay with me.
Within 6 minutes, the first volunteers arrived, including Cashtown Fire Chief Tom Norman.
My assistant chief got there right ahead of me, and he said she looks pretty bad. So I told him to go ahead and start the procedure for the helicopter. Can you help me out? I want you to do one thing.
Okay.
Hold her head perfectly still and keep talking to her for me, okay? Her golden hour was ticking very fast. We had no idea if her back was broke or her neck could have been broke.
Okay, Donnie, we want to rebreathe her on 15.
She was breathing, but as scared to death, she was going to take one last breath, and that would be it.
We want to get a collar on before we do anything. At the moment, we need a blanket also.
We have a lot of nasty calls, but for a young child, this is one of the worst ones we've had. It just makes you feel like it's your own child when you're working on, a girl that's hurt this bad.
Gettysburg Hospital Advanced Life Support got to the scene soon after, including paramedic Herschel Schenk.
Chief, what happened? What do you got? Looking at her face, blood coming from her nose and her mouth, there's signs of a possibility of a closed head injury.
Sherry, has she been talking to you?
No.
She wasn't very tall, so she struck the car just in that area of the headlight. And she was thrown, from my estimation, about 40 feet.
Sherry's gonna be a bright light here in your eyes. That's it.
Sherry?
There we go.
It was obvious that she was critical. From where we were at that day, transport time via ground would probably almost take up to an hour. So it was appropriate to have her flown via helicopter.
Donna Young came home from work as soon as she was notified.
Erica was crying. Danny. He had seen it happen, and he was just crying. He wouldn't talk.
Hey, get some more vital signs here.
I went into the ambulance and she was crying.
Yes. Mom, my name's Herschel.
I got in front of her and I said, "Sherry, it's Mommy."
Sherry. That's it.
Can you hear me, Sherry? She did not respond. She just didn't even know I was there.
I had to stay waiting for Dad to get home. Oh, that was bad. When Dad came through the driveway and you had to tell him Sherry was hit.
My first remark was, "Oh, how bad?" And she said at that time that they medevaced her to Hershey Medical Center. I worked as a helicopter mechanic for police and medevac operations. So I knew it would be very serious because I know they don't medevac people for anything less than a severe trauma.
5-year-old Sherry Young was taken to Hershey Medical Center, where a team of doctors took over her care, including pediatric surgeon Robert Silly.
We're going to need to get plastic surgery called, take a look at her face, and let neurosurgery know that we're going to have getting a head scan on her, okay?
She had her forearm bones broken in 2 different places each, multiple broken bones of the face, too many to count, quite frankly, and I thought she was likely to have a significant brain injury, the kind that you may not recover from.
God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Though the earth be removed and though...
My wife and our pastor was there with my older daughter, and at that time there was no information. Everything was a wait and see.
You can see that the midface is shattered on both sides, so we got a lot of work to do.
Plastic surgeon Stephen Kaler was in charge of the delicate operation to reconstruct Sherry's face.
From the x-rays, it was clear that she'd broken every bone in her face. This is certainly, without a doubt, the worst facial fracture in a child that I've ever seen.
You have a pair of gloves there in a second.
In order to treat these facial bone injuries, it's necessary to make an incision over the top of the head and actually peel the scalp down so we can wire those bone fragments together. We got started about midnight or so, and we operated all night and into the next day and finished up about noon.
After she came out of the operation, they told us it would be like 24, 48 hours to see how she would heal. And the only thing we could do at that point was pray that things were working out.
2 days passed with very little change.
Jeff come in and he talked to her and he called her Snort. That's her nickname. And she heard us and knew that we were there. And she went like this. And I started to laugh. And then I started to cry. I'm gonna be all right. I knew then that Sherry was getting better.
When Sherry was injured, the majority of the energy that her head absorbed was in her face, and it hurt her face terribly, but her face was fixable. Fortunately, her brain was not so seriously injured, and she's had a wonderful recovery.
3 months have passed since Sherry was hit by the car.
Now, before we even step onto the road, I say, "What are you going to do?" And she goes, "Look both ways." And then I say, "What else do you do?" And I told him to listen, not only to look, but to listen for cars. It makes you realize what a wonderful thing a family is when something like this happens, because you have each other to lean upon.
The car hit Sherry. I was really scared. I love my whole family. I love Sherry too.
It was an accident, but the helicopter came down. They sent doctors and nurses in there. I'm gonna ride in it again.
If I've learned anything, people can arise to a need and fulfill it. If it wasn't for Erica being able to have the courage to do what she did, the doctors or nobody else probably would have made any difference.
Doing good.
Sherry's a very dramatic little 5-year-old. She's very animated, she's very active, she's very wild. Her accident hasn't slowed her down one bit. It's been great to see her back to her normal self. It's really great.
Next.